Good afternoon, and welcome to the meeting of the Richmond Redevelopment Commission on Tuesday, March the 18th, 2025. Before we get into business, would you please call the roll, Beth?
Michael Bloom. Here. Jenny Lahman.
Here.
Kathy Lucid.
Here.
Nicole Stoltz.
Here.
Gary Turner.
Here.
Allison Zeidel.
Hi, here.
6 are present.
Thank you, and we have a quorum.
Hi, here.
First order of business is to review the minutes from our meeting of February the 25th, 2025. Did everyone have an opportunity to review the minutes, and are there any changes or corrections? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes from our meeting of Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Next item of business is a review of our financials as of February the 28th, 2025. Beth, you want to walk us through, please?
Absolutely. So as you will note on our allocation area number 1, we have updated these to include the most recent resolutions, 3/2025 for Morrison Reeves Library and 4/2025 for the 6 Main project. So those are now reflected in our obligations section. So when you look at our total available for new projects, we have a total of $3,267,532.45, and that does include the $1,053,000 that is earmarked for Richmond Community Schools. I have had an outreach from the schools, and they have requested an application, and I would anticipate that we'll be seeing that in one of our upcoming meetings.
Excellent. Thank you, Nicole.
Sure.
I have a quick question on these. You know, the former hospital, that $1 million has been on there for quite a while, and that goes back to 17. Is that going to get rolled back into budget, or is there, what's the anticipated usage of those monies?
So at this time, we are still anticipating the commitment to be fulfilled by Reed Hospital. They had committed $1 million to the demolition and remediation of the former hospital property. And so they are intending to provide those funds back to the commission upon the placement of the environmental restrictive covenants on the property. They are still working through that process with the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. They were actually on site about 2 weeks ago performing some additional soil samples to continue moving that process forward.
But we still don't have a date, do we?
We do not have a date yet, no.
But the intention is it would be coming back to us.
Oh, that's always nice. Thank you.
Nothing new to report for the Certified Technology Park. We are still working with the state to determine how this fund moves forward. So at this point, we have $2,031,024.31 available in the Tech Park Fund. In the Johns Manville Fund, we do have one amount to deobligate. The Dream Court, the Parks Department was anticipating an additional invoice, and they have confirmed with the vendor that there will be no more invoices for this project. So the remaining $4,250 from Resolution 9, 2023, I would recommend that the Commission deobligate those funds.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deobligate $4,250. Would you call the roll, please?
Michael Bloom.
Aye.
Jenny Lahman.
Aye.
Kathy Lucid.
Aye.
Gary Turner.
Aye.
Allison Zeidel.
Aye.
5 are in favor.
Excellent.
So we also have funds earmarked in this budget for Richmond Community Schools, and that amount is $200,000 that we have obligated for the schools. And the funding available for new projects is $1,709,812.67.
And just as a point of clarification, is that an additional 200, or is that already allocated?
That is an additional.
Okay, thank you.
And can we use any of that fund for the work on 35? that close enough to be?
We're using this on Northwest Fifth Street?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
And then we have the Heartland Fund. This is the Blue Buffalo projects that we have. And as you'll recall, with our bond payments, we do an actual payment of the revenue that is received. So you will see the remaining obligations that we have there with that fund. And with the Midwest Industrial Park Fund, we have, again, the obligations for the land purchase for the expansion of the Midwest Industrial Park. So we have those remaining obligations. And again, this fund only funds those payments for the bond and the professional services related to that project.
Beth, we have two Midwest Industrial Park statements in here. One has the negative 10,000 available for projects in red, and one does not. Is there any other difference there? Or is it just a
No, it should just be, I'm not certain why there ended up being two, but there should just be the one.
just making sure it was the same? Yeah, a little more emphasis on the negative.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. Any questions regarding the financials? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the financials. Would you call the roll, please?
Michael Bloom, Jenny Lauman,
Aye.
Kathy Lucid,
Aye.
Gary Turner,
Aye.
Allison Zeidel,
Aye.
five are in favor.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our business of the day. We had no old business, so we have two items of new business. The first one is Resolution Number 6, 2025, a resolution confirming Resolution Number 5, 2025 of the Richmond Redevelopment Commission that we adopted on February the 25th, 2025, entitled Declaratory Resolution of the Richmond Redevelopment Commission for the Smith Hill EDA Housing Program. I know that's a big mouthful, but I believe we can summarize that by saying this is the confirmatory resolution to the declaratory resolution. So do we have someone speaking to this?
Absolutely. I will invite Lisa Lee to the podium to speak to this resolution.
Beth, Madam President, members of the commission, I'm Lisa Lee with Ice Miller, serving as bond counsel on this project financing. Resolution number 6-2025, you've already mentioned that you adopted your declaratory resolution back on February 25th, which is the initial step to create the single-family housing area. Since that time, it has been to the Plan Commission and the Common Council, both of which approved of your declaratory resolution, your map of the area, and all of your findings within those resolutions. We have since then also published a notice of a public hearing for today. Once I've finished discussing this, you can open the public hearing. And also a tax impact statement was drafted by Baker Tilly and was sent to all budget officers of all overlapping taxing units. So they have had at least 10 days prior to today. So they have had an opportunity to review the financial information and ask questions should they choose to, and also show up today if they have anything that they would like you to consider. I don't see them here. Basically, the word confirming means you are just confirming all of the findings that you made in your declaratory resolution, that you are not making any changes. So at this point in the process, there's three things you could do. You can confirm your original declaratory resolution in all of its glory and make no changes. If you hear something in the public hearing that makes you take pause and want you to make some changes to the declaratory, you can modify and confirm, and we could still do that if that occurs today. Or you can rescind the original declaratory resolution and not move forward with the creation of the area. So those are your three options. This resolution simply confirms everything that you did in the declaratory resolution stage. All of the recitals simply tell the story of when you originally adopted it, where it's been since then, that notice has been published, And then there are findings to be made that you consider it to be of public utility and benefit to continue to create this area and continue with the project. So happy to answer questions. I know Jason is here if you want to hear more about the feasibility numbers, the TIF numbers, and that type of thing.
Lisa, when people are asked if they have comments, public comment, if they were to come here, but they were mailed a piece, does it give them contact to Beth's office, or does it go to Ice Miller? Who does that go to if they have concerns?
Does not go to Ice Miller. I believe the notice allows them to file written comments or remonstrances with the city clerk.
With the city clerk? Okay.
And/or show up here.
Yeah,
at
okay.
this.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we have any written comments that we've received?
We have not received any written comments.
Okay. Then I would open it at this point for public hearing. If there is anyone that would like to speak to this resolution that's here today. Seeing no one come forward for public hearing, I will now close that portion of the meeting, and public hearing is closed. Next item that we would be considering is whether or not we accept Resolution Number 6, 2025.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution Number 6, 2025. Would you call the roll, please?
Michael Bloom. Jenny Lauman.
Aye.
Kathy Lucid.
Aye.
Gary Turner.
Aye.
Allison Zeidel.
Aye.
5 are in favor.
Thank you. Resolution Number 6, 2025 has passed. Thank you very much. Next item of business that we have is Resolution Number 7, 2025. This is the resolution of the Richmond Redevelopment Commission pledging tax increment. And Lisa, are you speaking to this one also?
Do you want to mention what the project is, or are they all familiar with that?
They are familiar, but to put this on the record, this is regarding the pledging of tax increment to the Smith Hill subdivision that would create 285 single-family units, which could include 99 townhomes within that. And this is going to be financed through the Indiana Finance Authority.
Thank you. Yes, Resolution Number 7-2025 is what we refer to commonly as the TIF Pledge Resolution. You will see in the 5th recital, whereas clause there, that talks about the project that Beth has mentioned. And just above that, it talks about a 100% pledge of the tax increment. This is a requirement of the Indiana Finance Authority. So this Indiana Finance Authority is a program. This is only the second tranche that has been awarded. And the purpose for going through the IFA, if you can, is the interest rate. Right now, it's at 3.11%. It resets on April 1st, so it may go up a little bit because we're not going to close until about mid-April. However, if you go to the open market for a bond like this, it's over 7.5%. So this makes the money go farther. IFA awarded $4.33 million, I believe, for this project. We're hoping, because it does happen, that at least it happened in the first tranche, that some projects that get awarded just are not ready to go by the time that the IFA needs to deploy the funds, because these are appropriated funds from the state, and the legislature is in session, wants to know that these monies are getting deployed as they have required. So it's possible that the city will be set up to accept some additional funding for this project at the low interest rate, because right now there's a little bit of a gap that I believe Beth has covered if necessary, but we're actually approving a bond issue higher than the 4.33. The council introduced that bond ordinance last night, and then the EDC will hold a public hearing, another public hearing, actually on the project. Your public hearing is on the creation of the area. They'll hold a public hearing on the project on April 7th, and the council will then consider final adoption that evening on the bond ordinance, and all of the approvals will be ready to go. And so if the IFA calls us, which they did in the first tranche for a different client, and says, we have some additional funds, is the city ready to accept them and ready to go? And we can say yes. So we're hoping for that. So I know that the debt service is set at something less than using 100%, because I think the city was only going to pledge maybe 80 to 90%. So that's how the bond size and the debt service is set up. However, IFA requires us to pledge 100% because they want to make sure they have the maximum security. So if the pledge is not all used annually, our goal is that those additional funds will come back to the Redevelopment Commission, just like they would if we only pledged 80% of the TIF. So we're hoping to get to the same place, but we need to meet the state's requirements in order to get the low-interest funds. So this resolution pledges 100% of the project TIF. The bonds will be payable solely from the project TIF and a taxpayer agreement, much like you heard from the F&C project. No other city funds will be pledged to repay the debt service on these bonds. So this will need to stand alone, just like your other projects this time. Happy to answer questions.
We also have a clause in there indicating that if there were not sufficient TIF funds to meet the bond obligation, that the contractor would be making up the difference.
Yes, there's a taxpayer agreement that goes along with this, just like the F&C project, so that if there's a shortfall in the pledged TIF revenues, the developer must make up the difference under the taxpayer agreement, and that, if they don't, becomes a first lien on their entire property, just like a property tax lien. So it would be ahead of any of their other debt that they might have outstanding.
Thank you.
Very good point. Thank you. Okay.
Any other questions for Lisa?
I have an unrelated question. You were telling us last night about the townhomes. Would you repeat that, please?
Yes, the council actually had two ordinances last night, one being the traditional bond ordinance that they're used to. The second is a very short ordinance to begin the creation of an economic development target area. The townhomes, historically, townhomes have fallen somewhere in between your normal multifamily apartment complex and now the statute that allows single-family rooftop homes. And therefore, what was happening is townhomes that were built, that weren't built large enough, basically 4 stories, to actually be assessed under the state's assessment manual as commercial property, meaning they could be captured like normal TIF. They weren't qualifying as commercial property, but they weren't covered under the single-family housing statute, so they were just not getting captured. And so the legislature provided us this opportunity as long as we create an economic development target area. And one thing I didn't say last night, because I didn't think of it, and I will on April 7th, you can only create up to 15% of all of your property in the city of Richmond as an economic development target area. So you're limited on that. But if you create an economic development target area, we can capture townhomes, the TIF that comes from townhomes, regardless of whether they're 4 stories or 3 stories or 2 stories. We get to capture that, and that's a part of this project. You have almost 100 potential townhomes here. So that is, almost a fourth of the entire TIF that would be generated. So we want to make sure we can capture that.
What's the benefit of those areas outside of this tax, outside of including townhomes in that tax, capturing the?
If we did not create the economic development target area and these townhomes didn't meet the standard for commercial assessment, then we would not be able to capture it. So that assessed value would flow through to the taxing units. It would not be captured.
That makes sense to me. What's the other benefit of having them in this area? Are there other benefits that go along with this
You're
that
just
we don't know about?
actually asking what's the benefit of doing townhomes in this project?
No, about the economic development area, say that.
The economic development target area?
Thank you. Is there additional benefits that we?
There isn't in this context.
Okay.
Well, I guess, and no one's asked me that question, but where the economic development target areas normally come from is the tax abatement statute. So under the tax abatement statute, you can only abate industrial, commercial, manufacturing, warehousing, et cetera. You cannot abate retail. But if you create under the, you can abate retail property.
Okay.
So I guess, if we create the EDTA here for us to capture townhomes, if there was some retail to go in there, not saying the council would want to have anything to do with abating retail, but it could serve that purpose as well.
Okay.
So if you want to encourage some retail to help serve this area, you would already have that in place.
Okay.
But it would be serving the area because it's not zoned for retail in the housing area.
That's correct.
Yeah, so there would be other hurdles
Yeah.
if we were trying to do that, but that's the original purpose of an EDTA,
Okay.
is to be able to abate retail property.
That's kind of what I was at. Okay, great, thank you.
So if we don't have the EDTA on these townhomes, then we
You
won't be
capture
collecting
it.
TIF.
Yeah, you won't be collecting
those.
TIF. And I don't know if your numbers pull
That's a
out
new
what the
piece of
townhomes
information.
alone
Well,
would be, but it's about a fourth of of the overall development, so.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a new piece of information. It's-
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So what are the odds that that will actually happen?
The council did not provide any pushback last evening. I explained the EDTA and why we needed to do it.
You're saying it's going to be
it's
fine?
going to be passed.
Yeah, so.
And I presume the
Heard it here.
budgetary debt service numbers factored that in.
Correct,
That we would
Yes.
be including the townhome?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, without it, I don't think 80 to 90% of the project TIF would cover the current proposed debt service.
Yeah. I don't think it would. I mean, based upon what is laid out here in the
Correct.
financials.
Yeah.
Obviously, the developer wants that too.
Because there's what, 99?
Yes, there's
Projected.
99.
And aren't they going to be in his first phase? So he really does need them, and we need them.
Yeah,
Very good questions, though. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, Gary, for,
I'm not going to
Highlighting
ask
that.
that question again, though.
it's good to know. I mean, we need to get it on the record.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank
Other
you.
questions for Lisa?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions on the financials? Jason's here if we have questions.
Well, and just looking at the estimated tax increment revenue, obviously this project doesn't spring up overnight. It goes from
Right.
0 to 100%, so you've graduated the amount of increment, which is, those dollar amounts are gonna be used towards bond payments. I mean, it'll increase hopefully every year, correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, Jason Simler from Baker Tilly. Are you looking at this report? Make sure. Yes. Yeah, that development timing is from the developer, and you're right, we're looking at about a 10-year construction period.
Right.
And you can see we're anticipating the first development is starting in 2027, so not paying taxes until 2029.
And again, those first few, those 2 or 3 years at the beginning, will there not be any payment obligations?
No, there will be. If you turn the next page,
Okay,
you're
I
right.
know you went over this, but I don't remember
No.
the details.
No, yeah, you're right. If we close on the bonds as anticipated next month, there will be interest accruing during that time. The houses are being built and assessed.
Okay.
And during that time, we're actually going to be using part of the bond proceeds. If you look on page 3, there's allowance for capitalized interest, that $285,000. That's amount set aside to pay for some of that interest during that timing that the house is going to be built and constructed.
Okay.
And then if you look at the allowance for debt service reserve, we talked about a reserve. Typically, we always have a reserve on bonds like this is equal to one annual payment that's set aside, and hopefully it's never touched. It's just in case if the TIF's not there to sufficient to make the payment and the developer doesn't have time or is late in making that taxpayer agreement, there's another set of money that's set aside there. We're actually overfunding this to help cover some additional interest during that time of construction.
And then explain again then, if the pro forma overestimates development and it doesn't happen as quickly as we think, then Again, the payments would just roll back to whatever the increment that's being collected.
Correct, but if there's not enough tax increment, if it's slowed down enough, or the assessment doesn't come in as anticipated, or if legislation changes any of our TIF estimates and it comes in less than anticipated to cover debt service payments, or whatever the taxpayer agreement says, the developer will come in and cover that shortfall, that difference.
Right.
Okay.
Which again, I think we talked about the last meeting, that the developer is incented to make sure that that doesn't happen. Correct.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Further questions? Hearing none, do I hear a motion on Resolution 7, 2025?
So moved.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded to accept Resolution number 7, 2025. Would you call the vote, please?
Michael Bloom,
aye.
Jenny Lauman,
Aye.
Kathy Lucid,
Aye.
Gary Turner,
Aye.
Allison Zeidel.
Aye.
5 are in favor.
Excellent. Resolution passes. That's all we have on the formal agenda. Beth, is there any further business that we need to be considering at this point?
No further business, but I think we want to let everyone know that our next meeting will be on Tuesday, April the 1st at 1:30. And at that meeting, we will have a public hearing on the Smith Hill project at that time.
Okay. Hearing no further business to come before the commission, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.